Good afternoon, viewers. Welcome to Shamu's Equal Access Talk Show on Zondex Tv. Today we are live at AFCON conference at the CTICC in Cape Town. We are going to be interviewing the Minister of Information Technology from Zimbabwe, Honorable Minister Supa Mandiwanzira. Honorable Minister, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. What brings you here to Cape Town, Mr. Minister?
I think that it is very clear here that video is going to be at the center of revenues going forward. But obviously there's still quite a significantly low output of video coming out of Africa, coming out of our countries. Most of the video that is driving the data revenues for networks is actually video generated elsewhere. And I think that it requires us to think outside the box on how we can assist our people to develop content that can be used by the networks, because they are desperate for content. So therefore we need to think outside the box on how we can incentivize the Zimbabweans and many other people on the African continent to develop content that can compete with content on YouTube, content from the US, all the online film distribution that is happening there, which is not looking at Africa.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister, I represent the diasporans here in the diaspora, and one of the documents that was produced back home is the Diaspora policy, which seeks to lure the diasporans to invest back home. Do you want to comment on us on the Diaspora policy, on how it works exactly?
Well, I am not very I'm really, let me say that I'm not the person who should really be speaking about this, because we have a minister, Minister Mpofu, who is specifically responsible for engaging with investors. And when we look at investors, we're not just looking at foreign direct investment that's coming from non-Zimbabweans, foreigners, but we're also looking at investment coming from Zimbabweans who are based outside the country, here in South Africa, in Botswana, in Namibia, in Europe, in South America, in North America, and anywhere else they can be. I can just speak in general terms, just as a government minister who's in a foreign country, about what the government is trying to do. The entire intention is to say that government has come up with policies that promote the bringing in of the indigenous people into the mainstream of the economy. And these opportunities are available to all Zimbabweans, but they have tended to be available for Zimbabweans who are based in the country for natural reasons. They are there, they are close to the opportunity, and they grab the opportunity. And I think there is a recognition within government that we must not leave out those Zimbabweans who are based outside the country, because they equally have a stake in the country and should have a stake in the country. And they're actually even in better positions to mobilize resources to invest in their own country. So they should be encouraged. So the whole purpose is to really encourage Zimbabweans in Zimbabwe and from outside Zimbabwe to say there are opportunities that are being made available through government policy. Take advantage of those opportunities.
That's right. Another contentious issue that just reached from the press yesterday about the SPA group pulling out of Zimbabwe. What's your comment on that? Did you hear about that? They cited lack of infrastructure and lack of payments. Your comment?
Do you believe them?
I don't know.
Well, I think that if you have a big group like SPA group pulling out of Zimbabwe, what that means is that they have created a gap that somebody must go in and occupy. The fact of the matter is that whether SPA group is there or not there, the commodities they have been selling are going to continue to be bought. Yeah, the market is going to continue to be there. If SPA group came into Zimbabwe because there are 14 million potential customers, those customers haven't disappeared because they have pulled out. And I think that we need to start changing our mentality as Zimbabweans. When we hear somebody who has pulled out, we must not cry. We must be excited. Here's another opportunity to go in. I think that every business has its own approach to Africa, has its own approach to investment. There are businesses that expect to come into a country with systems already built. There are businesses that focus on coming into the country which has no systems, and they create their own systems for their own businesses. Now, I don't know the specifics on the SPA group pulling out, but I can assure you somebody will occupy that space. You have to question yourself, is it you? Is it somebody you're going to encourage to occupy that space, or is it other people? From what I know, the SPA group is not closing down the supermarkets. What they're closing down is a distribution center. because they are saying they would like to distribute out of South Africa, no longer distribute within Zimbabwe. So they probably won't have SPAR distribution as a center which feeds into the stores, and they would rather supply from one center in South Africa indirectly to the stores, not through this distribution hub in Zimbabwe. Now, that's their business model. I don't want to comment negative or positive about that model, but what I can certainly tell you is that we are focused as a country in trying to ensure that the bulk of the produce that's coming from outside the country, which our people can grow or our people can manufacture or process, must actually be done in Zimbabwe. So they may be seeing the trend of where we are going. 2 years ago, 1 year ago, the supermarket shelves were full of cooking oil coming out of South Africa, which meant that we were paying South African farmers. We were ensuring employment for South African farm laborers who produce the sunflower or produce the maize or produce the soybean that is used to make cooking oil. But we were also sustaining South African industry, oil industry in this particular case. But because of Statutory Instrument 64, we have said, well, we would like the South African oil producers to come and do the processing of that oil in Zimbabwe. And when they do so in Zimbabwe, it means they guarantee a market for our own farmers. So we create employment for our own farmers who, through government policy, we have given land. And that is a positive thing, development that we must do. Now, if, for instance, SPAR Group sees that that line of business is going away and there are potential other lines that are going away and they may not need a distribution center, well, they're probably reading into the future. But our policy as a government is very clear. We want to promote Zimbabweans to get into business. We want to promote industrial development in Zimbabwe, and we can only do so if we promote the primary production, which is agriculture, the processing. Now that this is why, under a government initiative and the policy framework of ZimAsset, we are focusing on beneficiating the produce that's coming from our minerals as well as from our agricultural production.
That's fair and fine. Minister, just a quick one. Your comment on the bond notes, when are they coming in?
Well, I'm not the central bank governor, neither am I the Minister of Finance, but they are definitely coming, and they are coming very soon. And this is a very good thing for the country. And I know that a lot of people are very skeptical. They don't believe that this is a good thing, but hear it from me. If you are an exporter, this is for you. If you don't export, just forget about them, because they are coming in as an incentive for an exporter. So if you are not an exporter, don't say you don't want them. Yeah. Let those who are exporting, who are getting them as an incentive, accept them, because it helps them become more competitive. Now, the irony of this is that in Zimbabwe, I know many people who are unemployed, who say, there are no jobs. And they say they don't have any bank account. They lost all their money. But they say, we don't want the bond note. And I said, no, this bond note is being distributed for free. This is not free money. So this is really money meant for people who are in the productive sector and who are exporting. And they are being given 5% of the value of their exports as an incentive so that we encourage more money coming into the country. Here is the scenario in Zimbabwe. We don't produce diesel in Zimbabwe. We import the bulk of our fuel requirements. So in a month, we spend up to 100 million US dollars. That's hard currency to bring in this fuel into the country. Do you want to continue to expect the government to now go outside the country to the US to go and buy banknotes in US dollars to give to Zimbabwe to now be able to trade in the same fuel that they've imported? Do you understand the rationale? Yes. You have Zimbabweans importing fuel. You import fuel, you pay in US dollars. Now you want to import more money from outside the country in order to give Zimbabweans to be able to trade in buying the same fuel that they have imported. It's crazy. That is what makes a country not competitive. Why is fuel cheaper in South Africa than it is in Zimbabwe? Because the South African government imports fuel from the Middle East or from anywhere in the world in hard currency. But when it pays duty for that fuel, it's paid for in rands. When it distributes that fuel within South Africa, it pays so in rands. And there's a competitive advantage, and that reduces the cost. The difference in Zimbabwe is that you pay duty in US dollars. You distribute in US dollars. So it is increasing the US dollar cost of the commodities. That is why Zimbabwean products don't become competitive on the regional market, on the international market. So the bond note is a huge incentive for the exporters, but also more importantly, it will allow for Zimbabweans to use some form of exchange for things that are not necessarily imported. There is no reason why people should pick up wild mushroom and sell it in US dollars. The US dollar is a reserve currency. Nobody in the world uses the US dollar to buy locally produced tomatoes. We don't need people in rural Nyanga to look for US dollars that are imported as cash from the US in order to buy tomatoes from each other. It's crazy.
Minister, thank you very much.
It's been a great pleasure. Thank you
grabbing
for
this
having me.
opportunity to chat to you.
Thank you.
I guess viewers, you had the issue of bond notes, you have the issue of diaspora investment. If the policy is there, let's go home and invest. Why not? What are we waiting for? Thank you for watching Shamu's Equal Access Talk Show on Zondex TV.